Hello, I'm UAnime5 and I'm here to talk about the changes I've made to my Morning Sun Mods 2.4 version. Before I go into the details, I'd like to clarify a few things. Since I can't edit the radar map, I can't fix where all the armies and resources are displayed. I also can't change the fact that the settlements disappear if you go too far east or west. Now on to the updates. Korea. After several centuries of peace, the Korean army had declined in military power. In order to reflect how the Korean army was organised, I've modified the units in the following manner. The lowest level of units are the militia. These are generally used to guard cities, however their attack stats are very low and in combat they won't last too long. In terms of stats, they rank below the Japanese Ashigaru. Next are the local units. They make up the majority of the Korean army and guard everywhere except for the capital where the professional army is located. These units in terms of stats are more similar to the Japanese Ashigaru, example here the regional archer. By contrast, in the capital they had the professional army who was more capable than the other units. As a result we have the Kabasa, who were professional soldiers. In terms of combat skill, these units are equivalent of the samurai. And finally we have elite units. These are the equivalent of hero units for Japanese factions, and are the strongest units in the Korean army. As a result, while you can build up a large army pretty much in any Korean region, outside of the capital they are effectively an Ashigaru army rather than a samurai army. However, to balance this, I've added some additional skills to the Korean general. On the right hand side, the Korean general, rather than improving their bodyguard, will now improve the soldiers under their command, increasing their defense, morale and attack, though these two still improve the Korean bodyguard. I haven't made too many cosmetic changes to the Korean army. It's mostly changes to their overall stats. China. Regarding changes to the Ming, like the Koreans, I have split them into militia, local, professional and elite units. Here are examples of the elite units. They tend to have imperial or elite in their name. Here is an example of a local unit, the Chinese Northern Archer, and its border equivalent, which is a professional unit. Consequently, anything that has the word border in its name is a professional unit. Units that do not have border in their names are generally local units. The levy units for China are not recruitable and will only appear if the settlement is attacked. The main changes to the Ming have been changing the unit models and adding more southern units in order to reflect how northern and southern Chinese armies were different. As you can see, there's the Wolfmen and some southern soldiers, along with some Tutsi units. The Tutsi being the Aboriginal people in southwest and northwest China. I'll now show you some of the new models for the northern and southern units. The main changes to the Ming roster are that I've introduced more pikemen and more sword and shieldmen. I've also made new models for the southern Chinese units to reflect how the southern units in China were notably different from their northern counterparts. I'll now use a custom battle to show us the new Chinese units. I got these units from a Mountain Blade Song mod, as many of the southern Chinese units were still using Song style armour. And now I'll just show us the new Ming units. Here's a Ming general. Notice the new helmet. During the Ming period, northern generals wore helmets with 3 flags on it, while the southern generals look more like soldiers from the Song dynasty. As I cannot make different armour models for the northern and southern generals, I used armour that the southern general would have used for the Tutsi general. Here's an example of some of the Chinese militia units. Here's the southern Chinese militia. Notice the stomach protection, and the northern ones which do not have the stomach protection and have different hats. Here we have examples of local Chinese pikemen and their southern equivalent. The Wolfmen are a spear and shield unit made of Aboriginal people, the western areas of China. Aboriginal people were chosen because the Ming believed that they would be more wild and therefore better fighters. Here we see the northern border pikeman, which looks like the original pikeman, and here's his southern equivalent wearing leather armour and a rattan helmet. And here we have elite pikeman unit wearing paper armour and a rattan helmet. And here's the northern Chinese swordsman, the southern counterpart with a rattan shield. Here's the border equivalent with the leather armour, rattan helmet and a rattan shield. And here's the northern equivalent wearing brigandine and holding a metal shield. Here are the Chinese Ironmen. They were specifically trained to fight Japanese pirates and as a result are holding Japanese swords. Here are the heavy swordsmen with swords designed to attack horses with. Northern archers. Northern border archers. Southern archers, and of course their border equivalent wearing paper armour and a rattan hat. Here's one of the Chinese southern officers. They wear old style song armour, unlike their northern counterparts who are wearing lamellia. And here we have European crossbowmen. I added the crossbow to the game, then removed it because it had fallen out of use in this time period. However, as the weapon was already coded, I decided to make some units that would have this weapon. They're not recruitable in game, so you probably won't see them. Imperial Guard, an elite unit of Musketeers. Mongol soldiers that have been hired by the Ming in order to protect them. Iron horsemen who wield the trigun on a horse. Here are the Imperial messengers. They don't appear in game as they're only used by the Emperor to send messages. They weren't a combat unit, but I had the model for them, so I decided to include them. And lastly we have the Truncheon Cavalry. These units are armed with a combination of a mace and a sword. And that's an overlook of some of the new Ming units. And here we have some of the new Jurchen unit. While I haven't modified the Jurchens as much as I did the Ming, I have changed their armour in order to be more historically accurate. The main changes have been to the brigandine units, with the non-brigandine units being pretty much the same. There are several types of new armour. The armoured spearman has the half brigandine type with no arm guards. As you can see, they now wear armour similar to the late period Ming armour, while the Death Squad has the full brigandine but still no arm guards. The reason for this is that arm guards are only worn by the elite soldiers and officers, while the rank and file soldiers did not have arm guards. And here we see the Brigandine Cavalry, and these have been the main changes in Morning Sun 2.4.